Welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. So I have a fantastic watch from Olto8 today. This is set to be launched on the 28th of April 2024 as a Kickstarter campaign. Now, if it's the first time you're hearing about Olto8, they are a Japanese microbrand who I have featured already on this channel, but they're usually known for making really obscure and complex watch designs. So if I can jog your memory, take you over to this site and just glance at some of the previous models, you'll know exactly what they're doing, exactly what I'm talking about. So just checking some of the designs, they are a very niche brand, giving us complicated watches like the Roto with a jump hour design, the Infinity, which is the one I reviewed, and the Infinity 2, and etc. and etc. So I actually find these watches extremely fascinating to look at and review, because from a manufacturing point of view, they're amazing, but the problem is that they are not for everyone and definitely not your casual pieces you can wear on a daily basis. But this new Coral Steward I have in front of me may just change that. So we start off with premium cardboard packaging with an outer sleeve and an inner box, and inside you'll find a high quality and what seems to be a full leather travel box with foam inserts, and obviously this protects the watch and gives you a much smaller travel box option. Now instantly when you do take the watch out of the box, it already looks a lot more normal. It's the simplest watch to date. And this piece looks to the ocean for its inspiration, from the dial to the case, which by the way is based on old diving cameras. Now to me what jumps out most is that dive watch core design blended with sports watch aesthetics, and it still has that unique Olto8 flavor. So what do we have in regards of specifications? You've got a steel case with a flat air coated sapphire crystal. The case features a flat case back held down by 4 individual screws. The watch has 2 crowns as it has an internally rotating bezel, but it boasts an incredible 300 meters of water resistance. Now the movement powering this watch is that very reliable and trusty Seiko NH35, which will give you plenty of years of use without any servicing headache. Now the watch does come in 3 different colors. You've got this eye-catching blue that you see in my hand. They offer a classic black option and a very dark olive green option with a weathered DLC coated case, which is quite interesting. Now dimensionally, this is where you'd probably think there's some concern, but as you can see, it fits great on my 6.5-inch wrist, and this is due to that square case. It's 45 millimeters across. While that seems large, it's the same as Seiko Sumos and the Seiko Turtles, but because of the square design, the lug to lug is also 45 millimeters. 13 millimeters thick with 22 millimeter at the lugs, so it will wear really well on a variety of wrists. Now combined with this supple silicone strap, it's really comfortable and it really does blend in well with that sports diver aesthetic. And I was surprised on how well it sits on the wrist, and it is something you can now wear every day. Now one of the main things which stand out is this unique dial. It is quite vibrant in blue, and it has a fume-esque look to it with a blue and black gradient towards the outer edge. Now they've had to use a very challenging technique to craft this dial, which involves oil pressure 3D carving. I'm not quite sure what it entails, but it does look really impressive. The dial pattern is inspired by the beautiful and intricate coral reefs, and by using this technique they've captured it really well. You can see very well defined mini craters and bumps, and the texture is really impressive, and outdoors you do really appreciate that definition. You've got dots for the minute markers in line with the dial theme. You've got flat applied logo just below the 12 and discrete water resistance printing just above the 6. You've got polished and applied hour markers with a nice shape similar to that of a maxi style dial but more rounded on the 12. The date window does have a polished bevel, and it is really a high quality dial. Now the handset they used is fully polished. I like the shape of the hands and the chevron on the hour hand. It's very typical and large dive watch hands. I have one issue here, which is the length. The minute and the seconds hand are just lacking that bit of length. It's definitely more of a preference thing. I like the handsets to stretch out as far as possible, but it's not a deal breaker. Now the loom unfortunately isn't that great. If you look closely at the hour markers, you'll see it appears quite thin, and the loom shot does confirm this. The handset is okay, but the dial and the rotating bezel are quite dull, and this was directly after daylight exposure. But under the normal camera, which is quite brilliant, it shows it a little too much, but it isn't accurate to what the eyes can see. But this is a pre-production sample piece, so I really do hope they add a lot more layers of loom on this, because it would be a shame for a watch with such a great dial and case to be let down just by the loom. Now moving on to the second best feature of this watch, it has to be the case. I was very impressed with this case. It has a great weight to it, but it's the finishing that jumps out. Now, for a square case, it has so many round edges. Every straight transition has a polished bevel edge. When you look at the face, for example, you have a very soft grain linear brushing, and at the edge of this bezel, it has a large beveled polished edge which just comes over onto the A face. Now we see this again when we go over to the midsection of the case. It's a smaller and finer polished bevel edge going around the case, which then changes into a very smooth bead blasted texture with a matte finish. Now the polished bevel edge is also present on the underside of this bead blasted midsection, and the case back also has a polished curved edge with flat linear brushing. Now I have to say, I've not seen a case like this, something which is finished as well as this. Some may even say that the finishing is better than what we see on high-end watches like Rolex. All these details combined give the case a very smooth and very premium feel in hand. It really does feel like a high-end watch. So you also have good functionality. Both crowns screw in, they are beefy and come in at just under 8mm with a really grippy spline, and they're both signed with brushed circular finishing. Now in terms of operation, the threading is quite smooth and it is very easy to use. Now the secondary crown with the internally rotating bezel, it has a really nice smooth sort of feeling behind it. There is a little bit of, I'd say, torque behind it, and you do feel some clicks when you're rotating it. So I feel this is better than a lot of the other internally rotating bezels that you do see, because a lot of them are quite loose in the case, but this one, because it has some of that resistance, it just feels a little bit more precise. Now when you do press the crown in, the mechanism does lock, so as you are screwing it in, there is no movement from that internally rotating bezel. So overall, I'd say it's a very impressive watch from Olto8. It's very different from the usual range, but it's a good different. It opens up the market to a lot more people. A lot more people can enjoy this as a daily wear, and it isn't just a statement piece or just something a bit, overly complicated or something crazy. And the two things which I stated that I'm not too keen on, one is the length of the hands and the poor loom. But the two best things about this watch that stand out is, of course, that gorgeous dial with its oil pressed engraved coral-like texture and that glossy finish. And then the case with its bevels upon bevels, and for that high quality finish and feel. So before we finish off, there is one more thing, and that's the price. Now Olto8 have asked me to keep the price secret because they want to reveal it on the Kickstarter day, which I think is a bit silly because the price is quite important. So all I'm going to say is that it's going to be around £250, but you'll see the exact price when the watch does launch on the 28th of April 2024 on the Kickstarter, which I have linked below in the description. So over to you guys. Let me know your thoughts on this Olto8 Coral Steward. I think it's quite fantastic, but I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comment section below. And that's it for me today, guys. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.